All right, everybody, welcome back to part 2 of the 2022 baseball 2-umpire system video clinic. As I said before, my name is Jake Samp. I'm from the Sioux Falls area, and we're going to talk about CCA mechanics, which has recently been adopted by the South Dakota Umpires Association. This is what the book looks like for this year. And again, we're going to talk about philosophy, and we'll cover this in every lesson. But the 2-umpire system is the base set of mechanics for all umpires. The 3 and 4 umpire systems build upon the 2-umpire system. We use the concept of angle over distance because the 2-umpire system is most difficult because of the amount of responsibilities that each umpire has. As you will hear me say multiple times, mechanics are not the be-all end-all for positioning. Rather, they are a starting point, and if you can use them, great, but it's a great starting point. The CCA mechanics manual operates under a theory of what is most likely to happen without the baseball being put in play, as opposed to the prior mentality that the SDUA mechanics operated under, which was most likely scenario with the ball put in play. So we're not going to be going into the B side of the field with 2 outs unless the pre-pitch scenario dictates that. And we'll talk about that as well later on. So this portion, we're going to talk about when we have runners on first base only. Okay, so our initial position is where we have U1 in what we call the middle B position right there. Now, the middle B position is really the only position that will be used during in the 2-umpire system. When we start getting into the 3 and 4 umpire systems, at that point in time, then we'll use what we refer to as a deep B position. But for the purposes of this clinic, we're not going to discuss the deep B mechanics. So this pre-pitch position of middle B for U1 allows U1 to have a good look at steal play, where R1 attempts to steal second base, or a pick-off play where the pitcher attempts to pick off R1 at first base. Like I said before, everything here revolves around what is the most likely thing to occur without the ball being put in play. As far as your outfield coverage area, we talk about the wedge, which is this. So anytime we have, it's easier to explain the wedge from the perspective of the plate umpire. Anytime we have the left fielder or the right fielder go to the foul lines, then the plate umpire has no catch coverage. Anything else, the U1 has that responsibility, and generally speaking, the plate umpire would be responsible for the tag of R1. Infield catch, no catch coverage, similar to what we discussed in our no runners on lesson. The arrow indicates the direction of travel of the fielder, and then U1 indicates this is the base umpire, U1's primary call. Plate umpire, PU, has that's their primary call. Fair foul coverage, plate umpire has both lines from plate to pole. U1 has no fair foul responsibility. For plays within the infield, a couple different schools of thought on this. So in this situation, we have what appears to be a 6-4-3 attempted double play. So third base, second base to first base. Under the strict reading of the mechanics, this is correct, where the plate umpire would be responsible for play at third. However, most of the time, especially at the college level, rather than having the plate umpire come up like this, what we're going to do is we're going to have the plate umpire come up the first base line, get stopped and set, just like we would with no runners on. That's what I do. It's what a lot of other college baseball umpires do. And there's actually certain conference staffs that have adopted this mechanic to replace this specific mechanic. Now, the reason for it is runner's lane interference has been a point of emphasis. Pulled foot, swipe tag. Those are all far more likely to occur than R1 advancing to third base. And if we do have this situation, and one thing that I would add is, U1 does not need to get to here. If U1 takes this play from right here, or even frankly where they start pre-pitch, they have a good angle to look at the play at third, as well as rolling any touches here. If we have a forced play slide situation, U1 is going to have the play at the base here up until the middle infielder throws the baseball to first base. After the throw of the ball, U1 transitions with the baseball to roll on the batter runner at first base, and the plate umpire takes over responsibility on the forced play slide rule. This is just more text from the previous slide where we talk about how U1 is going to move into what they would consider to be the best position to rule on forced play slide rule. Plate umpire is going to come and pick this up after the fact. Steal a second. This is why we put U1 in this position, regardless of the number of outs. Plate umpire, make the ball strike call. Plate umpire also has to be aware of any batter interference, umpire interference, or potentially catcher interference. There's so much stuff in that dirt circle that we still have to be aware of. And then observe play. For U1, the way that I like to do it, I take 2 steps backwards and I turn with the throw. It's very important that we turn with the throw so we don't take our eyes off the baseball. We take our eyes off the baseball on a steal play, we're no longer able to defend us in case of an errant throw. Plays in the infield on an overthrow. Again, we're going back to this mechanic here where we have the plate umpire coming up here. But as we talked, we like to have the plate umpire here on the line. Similar concept, except if we recall from our first clinic where we did no runners on, plate umpire went kind of that direction. In this situation, because we have runners on, I'm either going to go straight over, I'm going to start working my way back, but I'm going to gain ground toward the fence. Only if we have like a pocket in the dugout or something like that would I still gain ground toward the dugout, because the plate umpire still has the play at the plate. U1, you have responsibilities for both runners in this situation because the plate umpire has ball status and any potential play at the plate. So that is U1's responsibility there. Play within the infield. This is what I've been referring to over the last couple of slides. This has been adopted by several different college conferences, as well as an alternative. This is the one that I like. This is the one that I personally would recommend everybody uses because you have the swipe tag, pulled foot ability to rule on those type of plays. This play pick, we have a ground ball just kind of in front of the plate, but there's still the steal. This still shows exactly what U1 should do. I will say, if I'm U1 in this situation, I would not want to be in a situation where I would overcommit on this play per se. I think, if we're right there at our starting point, then we can take a couple breed steps. You're in pretty good shape, and you're not necessarily in the way of the throw. On a clean hit to the outfield, this is the first of 3 rotations that we have in the 2-umpire system. As I said before, the 3 and 4 umpire systems build upon the 2-umpire systems. So we really need to know our rotations, the two umpire system, before we start moving on to other systems. We have a clean hit in this situation. R1 attempts to advance from first to third. There's a couple things that make this play tricky, and also a couple things here to discuss that will help make this play just visually look good. So first, what I'm going to do, after I know I have a clean hit, I'm going to come up the baseline just like this plate umpire does here. I want to try to match. So this might be a little hard to explain, but if the I want to be as equal distance from the base as R1 is to second base, basically. You know, R1's got to go 180 feet. I got to go 90 feet as a plate umpire. As soon as the ball's hit and we have a clean hit, I'm going to communicate to my base umpire, U1. I have third if he comes. Or another person said, I have third if they come. Because in order to come into play like this, you need to have two things, ball and runner. So if you have ball and runner, then you come into the field of play to make this call here. Okay? The two umpire system, that is how you make this call. We do not make the call from here. That's a mechanic for different systems. That's not appropriate, because if you have an overthrow here, now you're in the throwing lane as you're trying to go home of the fielder trying to make the play on the runner at home. So then plate umpire can retreat and assume a normal wedge position at the plate, just like this. Like I just described, this is your overthrow. In this situation, as with the previous situation, U1 only has responsibility for R1 to second base. Once R1 touches second base and attempts to go to third, unless there's a play back into second base, R1 is responsibility of the plate umpire. In this situation, we have a fly ball down the right field line with no catch. In this situation, the plate umpire is going to come up the line to read fair foul and catch no catch in that specific order. And only in this situation is U1 going to take R1 to third base. Fly ball to center field, fly ball basically to the outfield, where we have a catch and no attempted advance by R1. So as we talked about a couple slides ago, we have our wedge. I'll draw the wedge here. So this ball is clearly hit into the wedge. So catch, no catch is the responsibility of the first base umpire. If there's no catch, plate umpire needs to be ready to rotate. After the ball is caught, U1 would take R1 back into first base for any potential play. Got a fly ball down left field line with a catch. That's plate umpire's call because we have the fielder going to the foul line. This is not in the wedge. This is not a play that the base umpire or U1 should be ruling on. Plate umpire comes up the line. I will say this, if the plate umpire gets that far up the line, good for them. But most of the time, that's not going to be the case. So get up the line as far as you can, be stopped and set to make the call. The plate umpire should rule on fair foul first, then catch, no catch. And U1 would have any tag of R1 and subsequent advance to second base. fly ball down the right field line where we have no catch. As we discussed a little bit ago, this is the situation where U1 would take R1 all the way to third base, and we even if we have a throw, U1 should follow the throw in case we have a subsequent movement of the batter runner. And that's going to conclude this portion of the CCA mechanics for 2022 that is used by the South Dakota Umpires Association. In our next clinic, we will discuss leave runners on first and second.